All right, just wrapped up the week on Oneida Lake and had a 4th place finish up there, so I thought I'd give you guys a little wrap up of what went down. So I had a short practice, was in Connecticut for my cousin's wedding, which was awesome. I was glad to be there, but I did not get in town till Monday evening, so I didn't even get on the water till Tuesday, which was the 2nd day of official practice. Fished all day on Tuesday. Everybody was saying that the bite was super tough. And really, I wasn't catching anything. And I was checking my normal stuff. I was fishing out a little bit deeper because I always go up there and go for smallmouth. Ended up moving in shallow, moving into some of the grass and some of the bays, and ended up seeing a couple fish break late in the day. Kept my eye on them, went over there, threw top water on them, caught 2 right away, went in, further investigated it, and actually found there was a little hole in the grass. So I left it. It was getting dark. I left it, came in. The next morning, I went back out there, which was the last day of practice. Went out there and I fired a swim bait in there, just a Rage Swimmer 3.75, and got a bite right away. So I shook that fish off and I left it. That's pretty much what I had. So I went with it for day 1. You know, I had a couple little other places I'd gotten some bites that were more or less kind of some backup stuff. But day 1, I run up there, I was boat 84, and luckily I had it all to myself, which is very rare in this place, especially when you're looking at schooling fish in those bays. Everybody usually finds them, and it's just a fight to get in there. Luckily I had it all to myself, and that was key. So I got in there, and my original plan was, you know, you usually want to catch these fish on single hook baits. That way they stay buttoned up. You know, especially smallmouth, they're just so spastic that they'll throw everything. So I had the Rage Swimmer. This is a green pumpkin with pearl belly, and I added a little special stuff to it. So I'd take a chartreuse marker and my orange marker. I'd add a little orange to the underside here. I'd add some chartreuse stripes on the side, and I'd take my Sharpie and add some black marks on the side, basically making it just like a perch. In the fall, those perch start to move in a little bit shallower, and they get in that grass. That's what those bass were eating on. So throwing that. And I had rigged up, which I had caught some fish on the cutter worm. This is the new colors, blue craw with red flake in it. Put a little chartreuse on the tail. And then, of course, I had thunder cricket rigged up. This is the green pumpkin with the blue. And then I had a green pumpkin blade minnow on here. So I'm all ready. Day 1, I'm psyched. I pull up, and I'm going to throw these single hook baits, and I'm going to catch them, right? Throw out there, first or second cast. Boom, I get one on, bringing him to the boat. He jumps, throws it. I'm like, okay, shake it off, throw back out there. Get another one. He throws it. Get another one. I catch him, get him in the boat. And I noticed that they were swatting at the bait. Like, I was hooking them outside the mouth, on the face and different areas. So after losing one more fish and seeing that lose about a 4-pounder at the boat, I said, okay, I need to make a change. So that's when I pulled out the big sexy dog. This is in bone color, and I changed out all the hooks. So I've got, and this is normally what I do, is I run the VMC. These are the Barbarian trebles. So I throw a red one on the front, then I've got a black one in the middle, and then I throw a feathered hook in the back just to add a little bit more entice to it. So I took this, I threw this out there, and I'm walking it, and sure enough, they come up and they slash at it, but then they get a hook. And as I'm fighting them, they're getting more hooks in them. So boom, 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 I start landing these fish. Made a huge difference picking up and keying on them, more or less swatting at the baits and making that adjustment. That was key for me on day 1. So switching to that right there, and then of course there were a few times that I'd take my drop shot rod and I would pitch into that grass with my drop shot, and I was throwing a dream shot on here, and this is a moon juice, which I love, a little bit of chartreuse on it, and I'd pick up 1 or 2 fish that way. Now had a good bag on day 1, almost 17 pounds, 16, 15. And you know, the wind, the sun was out, there wasn't much wind. It ended up getting fairly calm. My spot shut down, so then I started scrounging around and hitting some of those shallow rock piles with some grass on them. That's where the cutter worm really came into play. So I was able to slow down those fish I knew were buried in that grass, drag that worm through, and then I caught some key fish on the cutter worm. Day 2 comes around. Now the wind's coming out of the east pretty strong. Get up there on that spot, and you know, the sexy dog played, definitely. So threw the sexy dog out there, caught fish on it, caught more fish on the drop shot. The bite just wasn't there though. Like, the quality wasn't there. As you can see, my weight went down on day 2. So just wasn't getting the big bites. Ended up losing a 4-pounder at the boat. I mean, it just happens. But overall, the bite just wasn't, they weren't as big there. They had moved, you know, it got a little choppy. I think they just slid out a little bit deeper. I looked, I just couldn't get those fish to bite. So day 2 came in, ended up going from 8th place on day 1 down to 12th, but held on, got the fish day 3. Day 3, the wind shifted. Now it was coming out of the west-northwest, so I was a little bit more protected. I got in there, and then this was another key adjustment. I got in there, and of course, I'm firing the sexy dog in there, right? All those hooks. They were not attacking it. They were not slashing at it anymore. They were actually ramming it. So they were hitting that bait and sending it out of the water and actually moving it outside of what I figured was their strike zone. Their strike zone was a little bit smaller on the day 3, and as you can see by a lot of the weights went down. So after missing 2 or 3 fish that way, now I did catch one, they'd come back. They would come back and get it, but if you were too far away from where they initially hit, they just weren't coming back at all. So that's when I said, okay, I need to make a change. I reached in the box and I grabbed a KVD Splash. This is the bigger size one, and I went black with the white feathers on it just to add a little more contrast with the sky. It was overcast, but what that bait allowed me to do was work it erratically, just like a sexy dog, but once they would hit it, then it was a little bit lighter, it wasn't getting thrown as far, or if they missed it, then I could keep it in that strike zone a little bit longer and still be able to work it, pop it, give it a good pop. They were coming back and hitting it, boom, boom, boom. I was able to put a bunch of fish in the boat. The quality was back. So that was a key adjustment right there. And then of course, I ended up seeing some shad flicker. So that keyed me into what exactly they were eating at that time. And then I made an adjustment on my drop shot, and I went to the baby Z2 in smoky shad color, which mimics that bait perfectly. As soon as I did that, first pitch in there, boom, had one on. I mean, I caught 3 or 4 right away on that. Once I had a decent limit, then I upgraded it to the bigger size Z2, same in smoky shad, just to try to get that bigger bite, right? So I went with a little bit bigger bait. But overall key, guys, for that was making the adjustments, seeing what was going on, seeing what those fish were doing, make the right adjustments. You know, top water was key, and then making the adjustment on that final day to get me, you know, what ended up being the 2nd largest bag weight in on day 3 and jump me way up into 4th place. So just paying attention to what's going on out there was really key. You know, as far as equipment that I used, this is my JC Pro Angler Series rods from JB Custom Rods. Top water was the Spook rod, which is a 7-foot rod. It's got great action. I was throwing it on a Quantum Smoke. This is 8.1-to-1 gear ratio, and I throw 30-pound braid, straight braid, no little fluorocarbon leader, no mono, nothing. This was straight braid to it. They were crushing it, all right? And that's 30-pound 832. And then drop shotting, this is my drop shot rod from JB Custom Rods. This rod is sick. It's 7 foot 2 inches. The action in it is amazing, super lightweight. And I was throwing, this is 10-pound 832 braid is the main line, and then I spool on an 8-pound fluorocarbon leader on here. And this is the Smoke S3 in the 30 size reel. I like the 30 because it takes up more line as you're reeling in than the 25 or the 20 series do. So I do like that little bit bigger reel. But there you go, that's the setup, that's how everything went down. Key again was just IDing those changes, what was going on quickly so that I could capitalize on that bite.